And the other day, I was having a conversation with a friend here, and he said, hey, do you just feel like, in general, there's a sense of momentum or buoyancy with the Christian faith? And I thought for a second, and I responded, yeah, absolutely, I do. Whether it's here at Rockharbor and what we're experiencing with growth and life and the Holy Spirit moving, or even friends at other churches, or even beyond, there is a sense that like people are more open to the Christian faith today. Even Barna came back with some results recently in a study that 77% of U.S. adults believe in God or a higher power. 74% say that they want to grow in their spiritual direction, and 44% of people say they're more open to the idea of God today than they were in 2020 pre-pandemic. And so, research shows that there is a sense of openness. Even if we look at popular culture, we've talked about this the last couple weeks, but Joe Rogan, the greatest podcaster, except for us, obviously, we're going to be top chart soon, but he hosted a guy named Wesley Huff, a very profound, thoughtful theologian, historian, Christian apologetic, which is amazing. It's remarkable. I even think of, Jordan Peterson, another thought leader, has said that he believes that Jesus is the Son of God. He's not just, living Christian values, but instead is like, no, I'm gonna stake that claim. I think of The Chosen, right? Like, how many of you remember Jesus films back in the 90s? We leveled up like massively, and The Chosen's on Netflix and Hulu and these global platforms, which is amazing. Worship leaders are winning Grammys, et cetera, et cetera. And so, from my experience, and hopefully yours as well, there does seem to be a sense of openness and momentum. And for you, Glenn, I'm curious, like, what's your read on this? What's your take? What's your experience with this?
Well, I would be cautious to say, like, okay, Christianity is back, baby. I want to be careful about that, because I think there have been different times throughout history where Christianity has been close to the center and very influential, and there's problems and gifts with that. And there have been times when Christianity has been on the margins, and there have been challenges and gifts with that. And so I think God is able to work whatever the reaction of the wider culture is toward us. But as I think about, the interest in Christianity in particular in our moment right now, I think there's a couple levels to this, okay? So let me sketch out an outline of these levels. I think there's a level 1 interest in Christianity, which is basically turning to Christianity for its practical benefits. Some years ago, there was a historian. He's a British historian, not a believer. His name is Tom Holland, not to be confused with Spider-Man. But Tom Holland said he was doing this research on the Muslim world. And as he went to tour modern places where Islam had taken root, he was seeing modern-day crucifixions. And he realized, he's like, in so many ways, I am a stranger to that kind of worldview. And he said, even though I don't believe in God, I am in my values and sensibilities a Christian. And he began to write about this and talk about this. And he eventually wrote this really thick book that's one of my all-time favorites. It's called Dominion. And it's how Christianity essentially shaped our mindset in Western societies. So you outline things like human rights. In America, we say in human rights, we say, these were, inalienable, self-evident. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. But actually, for the vast majority of human history in different parts of the world, this was anything but self-evident. You had the greatest thinkers, people like Aristotle and Socrates and others, who would say, no, actually, men are superior to women, and freedmen are superior to those who were slaves, and some Roman citizens above all. And so it was Christianity that shattered the stratification of society and introduced the concept of universal human dignity, or the sense of human rights. So I think the last 10, maybe 20 years, Western societies have kind of been in this experiment. And the experiment is, can we have the fruits of a Christian worldview without the roots of Christian commitment? Can we have the fruit of, in other words, we like justice. We want everybody to be treated fairly. Or we like compassion for the vulnerable or the marginalized. But again, understand, until people started worshiping a person who had been crucified, nobody cared about the vulnerable or the marginalized or the suffering. They viewed them as despicable. So it's Christianity that switched that. So Western society in Europe and North America has been in this experiment of, can we keep the fruit of a Christian worldview while disconnecting it from the root of Christian commitment? And I think what we're discovering in recent years is when you sever Western society from that root system, it either drifts into a kind of extreme form of liberalism or extreme forms of ethno-nationalism or populism. And so if there is a comeback to Christianity by these thinkers, it's because they're like, hold on, we like Western society. And we like the virtues that that's level one, okay? I think there's a level two, which is turning to Christianity for its promise of transcendence. This is like, there's a novel written by an atheist, Julian Barnes, and the opening line, his character says, "I don't believe in God, but I miss him." And I think that's the idea of this turning towards Christianity, of saying, we don't know if we believe in God, but we miss this idea of transcendence. Okay, speaking of Rogan says a lot of crazy things. I've never listened to Rogan's podcast, except for that one episode with Wesley Huff, right? And it's fine. I mean, I'm sure there's interesting things. But one of the comments Rogan made was, he said, do you think that since we've had like city lights and electricity, we've stopped noticing the stars, and therefore cut ourselves off from the longing or the sense of transcendence? There's something beyond us. There might be something to that. And so I think that's a level two. You're turning to Christianity because of its transcendence. But I think there's a level three, and that is finally turning to Christianity because of its personal God. This is the idea of saying, I don't just want the values of justice and peace and liberty. I actually, and I don't just want a sense of transcendence. I want to believe in this God who loved me and gave himself for me. That we would say. So, how do I respond to it, Gav? On the one level, I'm like, man, I'm super grateful that people are wherever they are on the journey. But my hope, not so secret hope, is to go all the way and discover the offer of a personal relationship with God.